Hello. So let's get right to it. Yes, it's news. It's very much news to me because I didn't know it. I really had no clue about it. And somebody made me aware of it and sent me a video. And I'm like, what the fuck? Corporate Transparency Act. Um, okay, so yes, most of us are LLCs. There's very few sole proprietors if you're smart. But if you're not, you need to be an LLC, but apparently there's something called the Corporate Transparency Act, right? So let me tell you how this affects you as smoke shop owners, or really if you have any business whatsoever. Let's talk about it. Let's go into it. I'm more than shocked. Okay, so here we go. You ready? Apparently, if you own even a part of a corporation, this law may hit you for $500 a day beginning January 1. Now, I know this is just the fifth, sixth month. I'm letting you know. I'm guilty of this. I didn't know. I didn't know. And if I didn't know, maybe you don't know. If you did know, why didn't you tell me? What the fuck? Okay. So apparently, it was enacted on the January the 1st of 2021. Okay. The purpose of this Corporate Transparency Act, further going to be known as CTA, is identify the real owners behind a business or the entities in order to prevent criminals, tax evaders, terrorists, yada, 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 or money launderers or whatever from hiding assets for illicit activities. It's always the little guy who's not doing shit that really gets always screwed on this deal. So let's talk about this a little bit, and let's talk about what you got to do and what has to happen. And I got this little article out of something called Reflector. It came out the 25th. And Dan Silver here, not long Dan Silver, but anyway. So Dan here has put this out for us, and let's talk about it. Apparently, the Secretary of the Treasury prescribed regulations in accordance with the CTA, and these regulations will be enforced by the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is a bureau within the Department of Treasury. The Department of Treasury also does counterfeiting. That's how I know them. And these people are got nothing to do but go through the paperwork. So I'm just letting you know. In order to comply with this CTA and this financial crimes unit, all beneficial owners of the corporation or an LLC are required to provide beneficial owner information to the financial crimes people. The current regulation is limited to corporations, limited liability companies, and other similar entities that they don't define, that are created by the filing out. You fill out a document with the Secretary of State, which you're local. There's 50 of them. But new regulations have already been proposed to include trusts within the CTA oversight. Family trust, because you have to file taxes. They want to know who owns these trusts. You'll no longer be hidden by Delaware Corps or by Nevada corporations or anything like that. You all have to tell who's who and what's what according to them. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal or financial advice. Consult someone who is, tax attorneys, those type of people. A beneficial owner is someone who owns 25% or more of the equity of the interest of the corporation or LLC, and the information to be reported for each beneficial owner is a legal name, DOB, date of birth, current address, and a copy of an ID like a passport or driver's license. But that don't make sense, man, because they've got all this shit. You fill it out on your tax forms, and If I'm a criminal and I'm washing money, I just prop some jack off up and I push him to the forward, and let's just call him John X. John X and Jane X, I push them to the forward. I pay them, a flat fee. Hey, this is in your name from now on. You wash this money, and we pay this taxes, and it is what it is. And if something goes sideways, I'm pulling this money, and ain't nothing you can do about it. And that's how it goes, theoretically. Okay. This information is supposed to be confidential and may not be disclosed to the general public. It ain't the general public I'm worried about. It's the feds. It's the feds and the state, as a matter of fact. The information is available to federal agencies engaged in national security. Like the IRS, the DEA, the FBI, ATF, the alphabet gang, all that bunch. They like to go by letters, not by names. All right, because it's scary. And anyway, you can also to state law enforcement agencies, if authorized by a court of competent jurisdiction, to seek information in a criminal or civil investigation. Why would a law enforcement agency need anything for a civil investigation? What I'm really getting at here, because I don't think I ought to have to read all this to you, all right, is the penalty for providing false or fraudulent beneficial owner information, or for willfully failing to provide complete or update information, is up to 3 years. So if you don't give them the info, you get 3 years and or fines up to $10,000, or a civil penalty. So you'll get that plus this. The state wants theirs too. Of $500 a day for each violation. How many companies do you own? How many products do you own that are under different LLCs? Because you're going to have to file for every fucking one of them. Or they're telling you right here, there are 18 exemptions from having to provide these information to them. But the type of exemptions that would be most familiar to readers of this article are for corporation LLCs that employ more than 20 people on a full-time basis in the U.S., and corporations or LLCs that file U.S. income tax returns demonstrating more than 5 million in gross receipts. Basically, this is a law that only applies to the little guy, according to this. So if you got 20 or more employees, ain't got to do it. You make $5 or more $1 million a year, ain't got to do it. It's just how it goes. So if you're making more than that, you don't care. But if you aren't, which is the majority of you guys, whether you want to admit it or not, this applies to you. I didn't know this. I've got companies that don't make that kind of money. Okay. I've got to do this for some of these companies. And chances are a lot of you do too, but don't know it, just like I didn't. So pay attention. $500 a day for the civil, $10,000 and or 3 years for the federal. Holy shit. All right. It's relatively easy to do, man. And you just fill it out with a computer. But I mean, nobody's really telling you how to do it. But I'm going to leave a link here that's going to take you right over where you can complete the filing online. And right here it is, by the way. Here you go. I will highlight this joker for you. Right there. Right there it is. It'd be right in the middle of this article, which I will link into this. It took about 10 minutes, this guy says, for the information for the corp. But remember, you got to scan your shit into them so that they can see it. So if you're doing it on a desktop, you're going to have a way to scan your ID or have your passport where they can see it. Okay? So pay attention, man. They're really serious. They want this shit because they're coming to get you for the finances. They know who you are, or they want to. Here we go. Welcome to the Matrix.